I still remember the sound, the steady drip of water against porcelain, echoing through the quiet of her apartment. It was the kind of silence that made every sound feel amplified, every heartbeat too loud. She stood by the doorway, arms folded, her silk robe tied loosely at the waist. Her name was Mira. The kind of woman whose presence filled the space without trying, elegant, self-contained, but with eyes that carried stories she didn't tell. "I didn't think it would take this long," she said softly, almost to herself. I smiled without looking up. "Old pipes. They need patience." Patience, she liked that word. I could tell by the way her voice slowed when she repeated it. "Not many people have that anymore." The steam began to rise as I tested the shower. Warm water slid across my hands, the sound deepened, and I felt her step closer behind me, close enough that I could catch her perfume. Something faint, like sandalwood and rain. She leaned slightly, her breath brushing my shoulder. "Is it working now?" "Almost." My voice came out lower than I expected. "Then," she said, pausing, "wanna test the temperature?" I turned. She wasn't teasing, not exactly. There was a flicker in her eyes, the kind that sits between invitation and curiosity. Her robe slipped slightly on one side, revealing the curve of her collarbone, skin glistening with the humidity of the room. She didn't adjust it right away. I froze, not because of what she did, but because of what she didn't. She didn't move back. Didn't pretend it was casual. The air between us thickened, humid and still. "I can manage from here," she said, but didn't leave. The steam wrapped around us like a veil. I could see the reflection of us both in the bathroom mirror, her standing behind me, her hand hovering near the faucet, mine still resting on the wrench. "Be careful," I murmured. "It gets hot fast." She smiled, faint and knowing. "So do some people." A drop of water slid from the shower head onto her wrist, and without thinking, I reached out, just to wipe it away. My thumb brushed her skin. Warm. Soft. Too long of a touch to be accidental, too brief to be anything more. Her eyes met mine through the mirror. No words. Just a silence that felt heavier than speech. "You always this focused when you work?" she asked. "Only when someone's watching." Her laugh was quiet, careful, as if she didn't want to disturb something fragile between us. "Then maybe I should stop. Or maybe don't." It wasn't what I planned to say. It slipped out, honest and clumsy. Her gaze softened, just for a second, enough to make me realize I'd crossed something invisible. The shower hissed louder, breaking the stillness. She stepped closer, her fingers brushing mine as she reached for the handle. "Feels right now," she whispered. And then, a sound from the hallway. A door creaked open. A voice called her name faintly from somewhere beyond the steam. She drew back, not abruptly, but like someone rewinding a moment too far. The warmth lingered, the space between us cooling with the air. Mira looked toward the sound, then back at me, her expression unreadable. "You should finish up," she said, though neither of us moved. The dripping returned. The mirror fogged. And in that fog, her reflection blurred, leaving only the shape of her lips as she mouthed something I couldn't quite hear. Then she was gone, leaving the scent of sandalwood and something harder to name behind. Outside, the door clicked softly, not closed, not open. Just waiting. The next morning, her name still echoed in my head, Mira, like a song I didn't know the words to but couldn't stop humming. I told myself it was just curiosity. Just a moment caught in steam and silence. But when I found myself outside her apartment again, toolbox in hand, pretending to check if everything worked fine, I knew that wasn't true. She opened the door with that same calm grace. Her hair was loose this time, damp at the ends, the scent of jasmine mixing with the faint trace of coffee. "Back again?" she asked, a hint of amusement softening her tone. "Just making sure the shower's okay," I said. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. She stepped aside. "Come in then. I'd hate for something to leak." The apartment was quiet except for the soft hum of a fan. On the table sat an unfinished painting, strokes of blue and gold, layered but incomplete. It looked like a storm caught mid-breath. Yours? I asked. She nodded. I used to paint more. Before things got busy. Busy, that word held more weight than it should have. I didn't ask what she meant. I could see it anyway, the framed photos turned face down, the half-empty glass of wine on the counter, the way she hesitated before sitting. She looked like someone who had learned to fill silence so it wouldn't echo. As I bent near the shower, she lingered at the doorframe again. I could feel her gaze on the back of my neck, steady, quiet, almost protective. Did you always do this kind of work? She asked. Started after college. Needed something steady. I paused, tightening a valve that didn't need tightening. My dad used to fix things. I guess it rubbed off. She smiled faintly. You fix things. I break them. Her honesty caught me off guard. There was no self-pity in her voice, just a tired acceptance. It made me want to say something comforting, but words felt clumsy beside her. You seem fine to me, I said finally. She laughed, soft, almost surprised. You don't know me, Ayan. Maybe I didn't. But I wanted to. I turned, and she was closer than I expected, close enough that I could feel the warmth from her body, the faint rhythm of her breathing. Her hand brushed my shoulder as she reached past me for the towel. The touch was light, casual, but my pulse caught like a wire pulled too tight. You should be careful, I said, my voice uneven. With what? With standing too close. Someone might misunderstand. Her eyes flicked up steady. Maybe they'd be right. The silence that followed felt alive, charged with everything neither of us could say. I watched her fingers tighten slightly on the edge of the towel, knuckles pale, before she let it drop. Her control was perfect, but her eyes gave her away. They always did. The sound of dripping water returned, slower this time, as if echoing the quiet beat between us. She turned toward the sink, pretending to adjust the faucet. You fixed it, she murmured. Maybe, I said. But something else keeps breaking. She looked up, a quick, searching glance, and for the first time, she didn't look away. No words. No movement. Just that thin thread of air between us, humming with everything about to happen and everything that couldn't. Then she smiled, faint and unfinished. Coffee? Her voice trembled, just slightly, and that was how I knew. She felt it too. The day after, I told myself not to go back. I told myself she probably didn't even remember that look, that pause before she smiled. But then my phone buzzed. Asterisk. The shower's acting up again. Can you come by? Asterisk. I read it twice, though I knew the answer before I even typed it. On my way. When she opened the door, the afternoon light cut through the curtains, painting her in soft gold. She wore a simple white kurta, sleeves rolled up, hair pinned loosely. No perfume this time, just soap and something warm, like sunlight after rain. Sorry, she said. I think the pressure dropped again. I knew it hadn't. But I followed her in. Inside, the quiet felt heavier than before, as if the apartment remembered what had happened last time. She gestured toward the bathroom, then hesitated. Can I get you water? I nodded, but neither of us moved. She finally turned away, her steps slower than usual. I could hear the faint clink of a glass, the sound of running water, every noise too sharp, too clear. I bent near the shower again, pretending to adjust something. The truth was, I was stalling, waiting for her voice, for her nearness. And when she returned, setting the glass beside me, her hand lingered. Just a second too long. Everything okay? She asked. Yeah, I lied. She crouched beside me, close enough that our shoulders touched. The scent of her skin, clean, faintly floral, pulled me closer before I even realized I'd leaned in. Then, a sudden knock at the door. She froze. We both did. Her eyes met mine, startled, almost guilty, before she stood, smoothing her kurta as if erasing evidence. Just a friend, she whispered, and left the room. Through the half-closed door, I caught fragments of her voice. Calm, casual. Oh, hey. No, just getting something fixed. Yes, just a minute. My hands trembled slightly as I reached for the wrench. I could hear her laugh, practiced, polite, the kind people use when hiding something real. When the door finally shut again, the apartment sank into stillness. She returned slowly, her expression unreadable. Friend? I asked. She nodded. He checks in sometimes. There was more she didn't say, and I didn't ask. Some boundaries you feel even when they're invisible. But when she walked past me, the brush of her sleeve against my arm burned like confession. You didn't tell him, I said quietly. She turned, eyes narrowing, not in anger, but something else. Tell him what? That I'm here. Her lips parted, then pressed shut again. Because it's not his business, she said softly. The air between us tightened. I could feel her heartbeat in the silence. Or maybe it was mine. Mira, I began. She took a step closer, her hand hovering near my chest as if stopping herself from touching me. Don't, she whispered. If you say it now, we can't take it back. I wasn't, you were. We stood there, caught between wanting and restraint. Every second stretched thin. Her breath brushed my cheek, and for a heartbeat, everything stilled. Her eyes, her hand, the faint tremor between us. And then she turned away. Next time, she said, voice breaking slightly. Just call before you come. But when she handed me the glass of water, her fingers grazed mine, a deliberate accident, and she didn't let go right away. Neither did I. That evening, the rain returned, the kind that didn't pour, but whispered. I'd been pacing for an hour, telling myself to stay away. But my hands betrayed me, dialing her number before I could stop. She answered on the second ring. Ayan? Her voice was softer than usual, tired maybe, or pretending not to be. I just wanted to check if the shower's holding up. A pause. Then, quietly. It's fine. But if you're nearby. I didn't let her finish. By the time I reached her building, the world smelled of rain and earth. She met me at the door, barefoot, hair damp, a shawl loosely draped around her shoulders. The lights were low, warm. You didn't have to come, she said, though she stepped back to let me in. Maybe I wanted to. She looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time, didn't hide the way her eyes softened. That's what scares me, she said. The words hung between us, trembling. In the silence, thunder murmured far off. I could see her trying to stay composed, the edge of her shawl slipping from her shoulder. I reached out instinctively to fix it, a small gesture, but my fingers brushed the bare skin of her neck. She froze. So did I. Her breath caught. Ayan, tell me to stop, I whispered. But she didn't. The air felt heavy, every sound too close, the rain against the windows, her breathing, my pulse pounding behind my ears. She looked away first, but not far. Her gaze dropped to my hand still near her collarbone. You shouldn't, she said. This isn't right? I finished. She nodded slowly. You're young. I'm not. I don't care. You will. Her voice broke at the end, almost a plea. But her body betrayed her, she didn't step back. When I moved closer, she let me. Her hands were trembling when she touched my arm, light as air, as if to steady herself. I could feel the warmth of her skin through my sleeve. Her lips parted slightly, breath shallow. This will ruin things, she said. Maybe, I answered. But what if it fixes something too? The line between us blurred, the smell of rain, the faint hum of the fan, the sound of her heartbeat as she leaned closer. I could see every detail, the silver strands in her hair, the tiny scar near her jaw, the drop of water still clinging to her wrist. She raised her hand, brushed my hair back from my forehead, the same way someone might do without thinking, or after thinking too much. My chest tightened. You don't understand, she whispered. I think I do. The room felt smaller, the space between us collapsing with every word left unsaid. Our faces were inches apart now, the kind of distance where a single breath could decide everything. Her eyes flicked to my mouth, then back to my eyes. "Don't," she said, though her hand didn't move. "Then stop me," I murmured. She didn't. For a second, the world disappeared, just the two of us, the rain, the pulse of something impossible and inevitable. Then, a phone rang. Loud. Jarring. Real. She jerked back, breath shaking, shawl slipping from her shoulder again. I reached for it, but she stopped me with a raised hand. "Don't," she said again, softer this time, but final. Her eyes glistened as she turned away. And even as I stood there, heartbeats still echoing in my throat, I knew something had just changed forever. The next day felt longer than it should have. I kept replaying the sound of her voice when she said don't, the way it cracked halfway through, not rejection, not consent, just fear. By late afternoon, I gave up pretending to focus on anything else and went to return a wrench-eyed. Forgotten. When she opened the door, she looked startled, not unhappy, just caught off guard. She wore glasses this time, hair tied up, an undone button at her wrist. "You shouldn't be here," she said quietly. "I know." She hesitated, then stepped aside. "Come in before someone sees." That sentence lingered longer than it should have. Before someone sees. I noticed the phone on the counter, still lit with a message thread. My name wasn't the last one. A man's was. "You have company?" I asked carefully. She turned sharply. "No. Just a friend checking in." Her tone was too quick, too practiced. I tried to smile it off, but it didn't reach my eyes. "Same friend as before?" Something flickered across her face, guilt, maybe, or exhaustion. "He's my ex-husband," she said finally. "He's been calling again." I didn't want to talk about it. The air changed instantly, heavy, sharp. "So that's who was calling that night?" I said. She looked away, then nodded. "He still has a key. Sometimes he forgets it's over." "Does he know about, there's nothing to know?" She interrupted, but her voice trembled. I stepped closer. "You don't have to lie." Her eyes flashed. "And you don't get to ask." We stood too close for a fight. I could see the pulse in her throat, quick and uneven. My hands clenched, then relaxed, unsure of what they wanted to do, reach for her or let her go. "You think this is simple?" she whispered. "You think I can just start something? With you?" "I don't think it's simple," I said. "I think it's real." Her breath hitched, and for a second she stopped breathing altogether. The silence pressed in on us, full of every word we hadn't said. "You shouldn't have come back," she said again, softer this time, but her body didn't move. When I reached out, my fingers brushed her wrist, a small, trembling touch. She didn't pull away. Her skin was cool, her pulse fast beneath my thumb. She closed her eyes for half a heartbeat. "You'll ruin me," she said. "Maybe we'll ruin each other." She exhaled, long and slow, and stepped even closer. I could feel the warmth of her body against mine, her breath ghosting over my neck. Every inch of space seemed alive with possibility and danger. "I told him not to come tonight," she whispered. "But if he does..." Her words trailed off, unfinished. She pressed her forehead against mine, just long enough to feel her heartbeat through the silence. Then she pulled back, eyes glistening. "Leave before I change my mind." I didn't move. Neither did she. And in that stillness, that fragile, dangerous quiet, it became clear, whatever came next, there was no going back. The storm outside mirrored the one inside, wind pressing against the windows, thunder rolling low like a warning neither of us wanted to hear. She stood across the room, drenched in shadows and silence, eyes fixed on me as if every word unspoken hung between us. "You shouldn't have come," she said at last, her voice steady but her hands betraying her, twisting the hem of her sleeve, knuckles pale. "I had to," I said. "You didn't answer my call." Her jaw tightened. "Because I didn't know what to say." "Then say what you're thinking now." The room felt smaller as I stepped closer. She didn't move, not away, not closer. Just watched. The air between us was thick with every glance, every almost touch that had led us here. I could hear her breathing, shallow, uneven, as I reached out and brushed a damp strand of hair from her face. "Don't," she whispered, but didn't pull back. Her skin was cool beneath my fingertips, her eyes flickering like she wanted to step back but couldn't make herself do it. "You make this harder than it should be," she said, her voice trembling now. "Maybe it's supposed to be hard," I murmured. "The things that matter always are." Silence. Then she laughed bitterly. "You don't understand. You could walk away from this clean." "I can't." "Then tell me to go," I said quietly. "Tell me you don't feel it." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The storm cracked outside, lightning flashing across her face, tears glinting that hadn't fallen yet. She took a step toward me. Then another. "You make me forget," she said finally, voice breaking. "Forget who I'm supposed to be." "Maybe who you're supposed to be isn't who you are," I replied. We were inches apart now, so close that when she breathed I felt it. My hand hovered near her arm, not touching yet, just feeling the heat of her skin. Her eyes closed for a heartbeat, her body leaning forward before she caught herself. "I can't," she whispered. "If I do this, everything changes. Everything already has." Her hand rose, hesitated, then rested flat against my chest. I felt her heartbeat against my ribs, wild and uneven. My own answered it, matching her rhythm. Time slowed. "You make it sound simple," she said softly. "It is," I replied. "We either stop pretending, or we lose this forever." For a moment, she said nothing, only stared at me with that same impossible mix of fear and want. Then she stepped closer, until the space between us disappeared. Her breath brushed my jaw, her voice no louder than a tremor. "Then stop me." I didn't. The thunder rolled again, and everything that had been building, every denial, every silent ache, broke open all at once. There were no more words left, only truth hanging heavy in the air. When we finally drew apart, nothing about the world had changed, and yet everything had. We both knew the choice had been made. Morning crept in softly, pale gold light spilling across her living room floor, catching the edges of everything we hadn't said. The rain had stopped hours ago, but its scent lingered, the air still heavy with what almost happened and what still could. She stood by the window, hair unpinned, the shawl from last night draped carelessly over a chair. I watched her for a while before she spoke. "You came back," she said quietly, not turning. "I didn't know if I should." "You shouldn't have," she murmured then after a pause. "But I'm glad you did." Something loosened in my chest, the tension, the guilt, the wanting that had twisted everything into knots. I walked closer, slowly, careful not to break whatever fragile peace had settled between us. "Your ex," I started. "Gone," she said. "He dropped the key off this morning. I think he finally meant it this time." She looked over her shoulder then, eyes tired but lighter. "I thought I'd feel relief," she added, "but I just feel empty." I stepped beside her, close enough that our arms almost brushed. "Maybe it's not emptiness," I said. "Maybe it's space." She smiled faintly. "You make things sound simple. I fix things, remember?" That made her laugh, small, real, a sound I hadn't heard from her before. Then silence again, softer this time, filled with the pulse of morning light and the faint hum of the city outside. She turned fully toward me. "People will talk, Ayan," she said. "They'll look at us and see something they don't understand." "I don't need them to understand," I replied. "I just need you to stop pretending you don't feel it too." Her lips parted, the breath between us quickening. "And if I stop pretending? Then we start something honest," I said. "Messy. But ours." Her hand trembled slightly before she reached out, fingertips brushing the edge of my shirt, tracing a small circle there like she was testing reality. Then she closed the distance, leaning her forehead against my chest. We stood that way for a long moment, her breath warm through the fabric, my hand hovering before finally resting at her back. No rush, no hiding. just quiet recognition. I don't want promises, she whispered. Just truth. Then truth, I said. I want you. Her shoulders relaxed, the kind of release that only comes when someone finally stops fighting themselves. She tilted her head up, eyes glistening, and smiled, slow, unsure, but full of something new. No words followed, only a gentle closeness, her hand finding mine, our fingers intertwining like they'd done it 1,000 times before. The world outside moved on, but for once neither of us did. When she finally spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. Maybe patience was worth it after all. I smiled. Told you old pipes just need time. She laughed softly, the sound blending with the morning. And when I looked at her, really looked, not the woman I'd met by accident, but the one standing in front of me now, I knew the waiting had been more than worth it. Her eyes met mine. Coffee? She asked, echoing the first time, but now it meant something entirely different. Yeah, I said. Let's start with that. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?